Hello everyone, and we are back for round 5 of this limited deck battle. Gary, we have another new deck matchup coming up. We've got Croc versus Kaido. I believe this is the same purple player that we saw in the previous round, but a blue player that we haven't seen just yet.
Yeah, correct. So we saw this player in the mirror match early today. So obviously doing very well. We could see making extremely smooth plays. Knows the deck very well inside and out. Knows what he wants to do, what his on curve plays are. Also knows how to move his webcam a little bit. And then we've got Croc. So we thought at the start, back in round 1, we thought blue was going to go well into the green meta. Obviously doing very well to be up here right now. So it'll be interesting to see how this match goes, blue into purple.
Yeah, we haven't seen as much green as what I thought we would. Blue's been around, definitely. We're seeing that purple. We haven't been able to get a red on stream yet, unfortunately. Not too sure if there is any left in the undefeated, but so far we've seen a good representation of a couple of different colours.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember at one of the pre-release events I went to, the blue seemed to have the better matchup into purple, just with that removal that it does have. But it'd be interesting to see how this goes because Kaido player here was very experienced from the looks of it earlier today.
Yeah, and I dare say this blue player is as well. We're going into round 5, both players undefeated, doing their best to get to that end, get to the final push and win themselves that serial numbered Luffy.
Definitely a really interesting event that we've got today. I know we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but having essentially an expanded super pre-release where at the super pre-release you obviously got one deck, you could play with that, but here being able to mash the two together, you've also got the promos available, so finally making use of those promos that players have been able to gather through little bits and pieces, whether they went to PAX, whether they went to the local stores and got the demo decks and from participating in Super Pre-Release. So been really good to see what these decks can actually do, and obviously it's a little taste of what's going to happen when the game fully releases soon. It's not too far away, but we're already seeing some sneak peeks of what's coming in the second set, and set 1 hasn't even dropped yet. So really interested to see how this game takes off.
Yeah, and just from a community kind of aspect of it, we've seen players really gravitate towards this game. We're seeing collectors really gravitate towards this game when you've got cards like the manga alt art secret rares and things like that. Everyone seems to have this card game on the radar. To some extent, they're looking out for it. We've seen pre-release decks, shoot up in price. Japanese cards, from tournaments going for quite a lot of money. So I do expect this serial numbered Luffy to be quite expensive and definitely one people are going to want to get their hands on.
Absolutely. We've seen some of the super pre-release promo Luffy cards going for, $800-900. So this is going to be even more limited than that one. So I would say you got to be looking at least around that mark if you want to be buying one of these. But as someone who likes to play card games, when I get cards like that, to me they're trophies.
Yeah.
And to have a limited serialized number 1, I wouldn't want to be moving it for anything, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. And we've played our events in the past, coming from a Dragon Ball background and topping those events and things like that, you fought hard to get these cards. You had to get through a long day of making as little as mistakes as possible. You sometimes don't get chances to eat and things like that, especially with the in-person events. Obviously playing from the comfort of your own home, it's a bit more easy in between rounds to get food and get something to drink, but nonetheless it's a grueling day. It's mentally challenging to come out of it at the end and have a trophy card. It's difficult to part with.
Definitely. I think the only downside for me playing at home is I'll have all 3 of my kids will be jumping all over me trying to play my cards for me. So it's nice I've been able to lock the door today. But if I'm actually playing an event, they'll be sure to break in.
You never know. They might play better than you.
Oh, most likely they will.
All right, we're kicking things off here. Both players setting up.
Both players actually opted to mulligan, so obviously not seeing the key cards in hand. Be interesting to see. I don't know. Have you seen the dice roll? Did we see who's going first?
Not that I can remember. I don't believe we have, but We'll see pretty quickly once we see that first Don get flipped up.
No players opting to play Don. There we go.
There's
All right.
Purple.
So
Purple kicking things off here. Looks like he's trying to be a bit more proactive about keeping his hand on screen as well.
definitely something that was noticed last time he was on the stream.
Yeah. And it's good. It's good habit to get into, whether you're putting your cards down on the mat like he has, or whether you're just keeping them in that corner within view. Obviously, you don't want your opponent to see your cards, but as long as they can see that it's on screen at all times, that is ideal. But moving in, neither player has played anything. 3 Don for Purple here. Do we see the field card coming down? Possibly not. We're swinging 6k into lead.
And countering out there.
Yep. So
really,
opting to use that super counter straight off the bat.
Yeah, it's weird going with the super counter when you consider he mustn't have too much in hand that he actually wants to get rid of. It must be key pieces for what he wants to do next turn.
Yep. Just sees the option there. You know, we don't want to be dropping the 2 cards. You don't want to take that life. So super countering out is it just makes sense.
Look, Croc going to 4 Don here.
Yeah. Do we see a Sentamaru come down?
Opting for leader swing first.
And taking that one. Possibly... Oh, he lingered on that card a little bit. Possibly reading a trigger there.
And tapping 4.
We could just see a Pacifista come down. Yeah. And there it is. No Sentamaru, so we're just going to straight up play that Pacifista from hand. It's a 6k skillless card. And we're back to purple.
Let's see if we've drawn into that stage card. Really key. You want to get it out as soon as possible. But as we've seen with the previous rounds, purple doesn't need your ramp to do what it has to do. It's still a very good deck, even without the ramp. It's just that added icing on the cake.
Absolutely. With these games still going for quite a while, you know, we're not seeing any hyper aggro decks at the moment. So as we start getting into these later turns, purple has more plays. They have really strong high value cards. We see an upside down Don in the middle of the 5 Don.
No, we don't mention the upside down ones. We accept it for what it is.
And purple just deciding what he wants to play here.
Opting leader swing first.
Yep, no power up there, but we see a counter, and that is the promo Croc going down into the drop area. We're really having a bit of a difficult time here deciding what to play, what direction to take this, and we're just going to straight up swing here, using our Ginrami, bringing it up to 5k, and keep that pressure on our opponent's hand, because they're going to continue countering out. They don't want to take that life, but at the downside of their hand size.
Down to 3 cards in hand. Obviously, that life is a resource too, and when you don't have the optimal plays, sometimes you want to be taking that to try and find some of your pieces. The fact that the purple player were buffing some of those lower cost cards tells me, again, both players probably struggling to find pieces for what they want to do.
Yeah, we see the Jack come down, a card gets discarded, and we're going to add a Don in active mode. Looks like he's not 100% sure on the card that he wants to discard here, but it does seem to be a Sasaki.
Trust your gut. You've gone with it. Trust it.
Yeah. Laying out the cards again.
So 4 cards in hand, but obviously a better board presence.
Yeah, and I think you're prepared to lose this this Ginrami here. Either the leader swing or the Pacifista swing. It's just one less attack at your leader.
Apologies if you're seeing all the swinging. Do not change the channel. That is definitely the camera moving and not a helicopter.
Yeah, I mean, you could play from a helicopter. It's remote. We can play from any position these days, but just some technical difficulties, and Pacifista will swing first. Bit of lag there from purple.
Thinking through this play,
Yeah, he's definitely
what's he
swung.
want to do?
I assume he's swinging to lead. You don't need to commit a 6,000 power into the Ginrami if you're trying to
No,
remove it.
agree. I think he can go into that comfortably with the leader.
And we see a take there. I assume purple has some high Don cost cards in hand. Probably not the most optimal low to the ground cards at this point, just based on what he's played and what he's discarded. And countering out of that leader attack with the queen there. So both attacks going into lead. Not too fussed about this Ginrami here. Perhaps opting to play something like the SR Croc. So that can easily deal with this Ginrami by putting a Don underneath, and then on block, we're able to bottom deck a character with a cost of 2 or less. So don't even need to worry about it.
Interesting countering out with the queen as well. Like such a strong card that you can have as you get to the right amount of Don.
Yeah, perhaps it's a bit of a show of what's in his hand. You know, perhaps there's better cards and queen just happened to be the worst option, or perhaps there just wasn't any other cards that could be countered with and his hand's quite dead. The Croc SR is also it's a 6,000 power, so if you want to be swinging with leader and things like that, you do want to commit some Don to it. You don't want to give them a free block and removal, and not having to worry about them countering out. So it looks like the player has recognized this. We're seeing that hand slightly slip off the screen now, as they're starting to get a bit more into the game, but a 6k swing into lead. Now, blue doesn't have that many cards in hand, but still a pretty big decision here. Whether you block, you know, what cards you use to counter, things like that. When you start getting with 3-4 cards, then every card that you use is really crucial, but we do see the on-block effect, bottom decking the Ginrami, and then the counter out of that attack. They really want to stay at that high life. They've established a decent board, and purple just doesn't have anything that they can really play right now.
And then Croc player down to 2 cards left in hand. You've got to be putting pressure on the board state at this point. Trying to remove some of those threats.
Yeah, do you power up this Jack, try and remove the Pacifista, try and remove the Croc potentially. If you don't have much in hand, you don't want to be passing with 7 Don in active mode.
Well, the Croc's going to continue to punish the longer it's out.
Yeah. Purple doesn't have a great deal of 2 or less cards, as opposed to things like green, but you do have a couple in there that can be punished, but more importantly, your blocker is a 2 cost, so that can easily get removed, but we'll just play the king and get rid of Pacifista that way.
Pacifista. And then there'll be about a pass turn there. So blue now going up to 7 Don.
8 Don.
8 Don, sorry. I do like the way he lays out his Don also. Like it gives you a breakdown of, you can clearly see how many he has and he can make comfortable plays. I think this is something that's really interesting, the way different players set up their play areas. You can set them all up in a straight line, but it's easy to get confused with what you're going to do. You want to set up your board state in a way that's clear, but you also don't want to give away information. So you see players who tend to have all 10 Don in a line and they'll separate depending on what their plays, and you're actually telling your opponent what you're doing with your hand and what's in your hand. So I really like this way of having a sort of set way of setting up your Don, where it doesn't clearly show your opponent what you're about to do, but you can clearly see how many Don you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we see the Croc swinging in here. So we've got a 6k swing. We're opting not to utilize the blocker. There's no 2 costs on the field, so perhaps we'd rather just have the offensive pressure here, now that our opponent's down to 2 life, and pushing them down to 1 life.
Quite an aggressive blue play, isn't it?
Yeah, and we see the Don Flamingo come down, bouncing that king back to hand.
Very nice.
Yeah, and that's a pass there.
He's seen purple before. He knows what he does, and he knows how to beat it.
And knows how to stay hydrated.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember to drink water out there, kids.
All right, this has definitely been a bit of a one-sided game so far. We've seen blue take control, but purple can easily make a comeback here with some of their big boss monsters. Just depends on whether they've seen them, whether they've got them in hand, and whether they're able to make the right plays.
Let's see. He's got a decent hand size. Could be a combination. Could be haven't drawn his right cards. Combination of nerves. There's obviously a lot on the line with that serialized promotional card that first and second get.
Yeah, and that's half the battle as well. As you start getting into these later rounds, you start getting a bit more shaky. You question your plays. You know that your opponents are good because they're also undefeated. It can be easy to make slight mistakes that you wouldn't make in round 1 and round 2, just from fatigue and nerves.
Absolutely. It's a long day for these players. We kicked off, was it 12 o'clock today? Or 12 o'clock at least in Victoria.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a long time. We're coming up to 10 minutes away from the 6-hour point of this event. So I've been going for quite a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time to play. We see the counter out there.
Very comfortable using cards from hand to counter.
Yeah, he's not too worried about having, 3 or 2 cards in hand. He knows which cards to counter, which attacks he doesn't want to take, and how far he can stretch his resources.
It's having 6 here.
Yeah, Barack Obama coming down, and we're going to remove that croc. We see the board get stretched a little bit, pulled back in. 6 Don have been tapped, and getting the 1 Don inactive from the event card. Showing a hand size there, it looked to be about 6 cards. And there's a pass.
Yeah, correct. 6 cards in hand. Maximum Don.
Yeah. 3 cards for our blue player. No blockers on the... Oh, no, sorry. 1 blocker on the side of purple. They do still have the Black Maria available. But we could see some kind of bounce, and then some Don under leader, Don under Don Flamingo, and all of a sudden you're pushing lethal.
Absolutely. That blue leader does have the built-in ability to remove cards.
Yeah, so it's a -4 effect, activate main, so you return the 4 Don cards to your Don deck, and then you can return 1 character with a cost of 5 or less to the owner's hand. Laying out his Don, just trying to work out what plays best, whether he goes for game or whether he just continues to put pressure on. There's no battle cards to swing in. It just depends on how much he wants to commit and how much he wants to leave open for defense. But
pumping Croc here, making it 7k, swinging to leader. Do we see the block? Also a comfortable hand size, so you don't necessarily have to block here. Could have those super counters in hand.
Yeah, and purple has access to Blast Breath, which is their 1 cost event card. You return a Don and your leader or character gets 4,000 power for the battle, as opposed to some of the other counters in other colours where it does require 2. And we see it right here. Yeah.
Do you think that would have been better to use to counter the Flamingo?
Yeah, I think so. The Flamingo's going to swing into lead. We know that. You've got a decent hand size.
And now we're seeing the optimum play that blue wants to get their big hitters out.
Centauro's come down. It's a bit late, but it's better late than never. We're already ahead. We've got 4 life still. We're not really in any sort of danger of dying the following turn. If we can establish a solid board, or checking twice for that deck. Yeah, there's the Pacifista. If we can establish a good enough board that it all doesn't get removed, we can really close out the game next turn.
Yeah, you would think leaving everything in active mode here, passing turn and getting ready for the next.
Yeah, you've got the 2 Don available for your event cards. You've got a couple of cards to counter with. We've seen him utilize a smaller hand size. Let's see if he opts to swing with the Don Flamingo, give him the extra card, or whether Oh no, opting to -4. We're going to bounce the blocker back, now swing with the Don Flamingo, and make an 8k. That's a tricky one to counter out. We're going to require 2 super counters or 4 1000 counters.
And it's still with the one Don available for his opponent's turn. But is there any... I don't believe there's any one-cost event cards.
Not in blue, no. They've got blockers that cost 1, but their event cards do cost 2 and 4. So probably not going to get much use out of that that one Don. But perhaps their turn's not over. Perhaps we see a 1-drop Trafalgar Law come down.
Yeah, they said having a blocker for the next turn.
Yeah. Just establishing the power on the Don Flamingo and things like that. Yep, and that life is getting taken. 1 energy, Trafalgar Law comes down. We've got a blocker established. We've got 3 battle cards that we can swing, 3 character cards that we can swing with next turn, and our leader. And 6 Don on the field. We'll be getting to 8 the following turn. Really strong turn coming up for blue.
I think, in all honesty, in the position that the Purple plays in, you're probably almost better off hitting Scoop and then going into game 2, because it's going to be very hard to get 5 damage and then defend. It does have a few cards in hand, not completely impossible, but you're facing down next turn that you got a board with at least 3 characters attacking plus a leader. It's going to be very hard to defend against.
Agree, yep. I definitely think the right strategy here is to know when you beat Scoop and take it to game 2. Yep, and looks like that might be what we're seeing. Yeah. Yep, and we see the 9-drop Kaido in hand there, but it just wasn't enough to push through to get the win. Very well played from Blue.
But let's hope that in the next round next game he gets a better opening hand, can get that ramp.
Yeah. Very experienced player on the left-hand side here.
This is best of 3. We still have 37 minutes left in round, so plenty of time for another couple of games.
Yep, and it's very possible to bounce back. You've seen how your opponent plays, very defensive, that they're very open to countering out and using the cards from hand early on. So you make that adjustment and you bounce back in game 2.
Interesting to see the number of players opting to play without a playmat too.
Yeah, it is quite funny, isn't it?
They want that one-piece playmat. That's what they want.
Yeah, and it'll be cool to see if we start getting those for our events and regionals and things like that when the set does come out. I know that they were given to some of the Japan events. I believe there was a deck box and a playmat given out for a couple of the events. So hopefully we do get some awesome prizing. They've started off strong with these serial numbered Luffys, and it's only going to get better, and it's only going to become more available as we start getting more events. You know, if anything to take from other Bandai events, we see top 8 prizing, top 16, top 32 prizing. So I'm sure that One Piece will follow suit.
Absolutely. And they've got 2 very successful card games. Obviously, Dragon Ball is up to set 17, with set 18 releasing soon, and the 5th anniversary box dropping soon. You've got Digimon, I believe, is coming out. Is it the 3rd anniversary coming out for Digimon? So been going for a while, and I'll say this is going to have a long, healthy life as well. So if you're into One Piece and you're enjoying this card game, it's got a very long, healthy life, I'm sure, especially judging from what we've seen so far.
Yeah, exactly. Since this card game was first announced, and we had a couple of guys just in our local scene that were really keen for it at the very beginning, at the trailer release, and just seeing how much it's popped off since then. I'm definitely surprised at how popular it is, but people are loving it. People love this card game. For a limited format, to have 205 people come out, it's only going to get bigger once this set's released.
I do like the super pre-release Don, but there's been some fantastic Don art cards that I've seen floating around. There's obviously the color Luffy one. There's the Don card that's got the full gold foiling,
Yeah.
which is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to continue to get more alt art dons. I believe there's a new one coming out in set 2 as well. So I'm looking forward to having 10 different alt art dons that I can just play 10 different versions and frustrate my opponent, and especially you.
So who's going to go first?
Yeah. I believe last time we had this purple player on stream, they opted to roll the dice again on their game 2.
That's right, he did.
So perhaps they're not too familiar with the starting first decision being made by the person that lost. But let's see how they kick things off.
Draw on 5 life. Let's see who charges Don. Can be very tricky to get these webcams setups to find a good camera or a mount. So it's sometimes a little bit awkward to get everything on screen.
Yeah, it can be. I remember when these online events first started for Dragon Ball, I was using my my laptop and trying to position the camera to have the screen and my hand and everything, but at an angle that I could still see the screen. But we've come a long way since then. Very quick start to this game. Purple already on 3. We see the counter out. Similar strategy to what we saw in game 1. Counter out of those lower attacks. Keep that life total high. And is that a Sasaki coming down?
And just a reminder, we had 205 players at the start of this event. We are going to try and get a full breakdown of the amount of leaders that make the top of the event, probably around about the top 32. We'll see what information we can get. We'll try and get a full leader breakdown, and we'll post it on our Facebook, and we'll probably do something on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't joined our Facebook page yet, be sure to jump on there and like the page and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll make sure we bring you all the One Piece content we can moving forward.
Yeah, that's it. We've got such a wide range on our channel at this point, and all of these games for today will be on there as well as we move into the purple player's turn. Starting to get a bit more Don available. Some of those larger plays. Again, player on the left getting some sweaty hands here. He knows what's on the line. He's one win away. He's got the Pacifista on field. And again, countering out. Interesting that the purple player is still deciding to leave these attacks at 5,000. We know that the blue player is going to opt to counter out, but they want to establish their queen and start drawing a couple of cards.
A little bit of a slower game state than last game. Definitely a high pressure situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, all the decisions are crucial. You don't want to get behind here and risk the 2-0. Taking their time. They don't have any Don available. Blue player just waiting for that discard. Looks like it's a king.
It's a big card to discard.
Yeah, and an insight into that hand there. And there's the pass.
moving up to 6 Don. Low hand size, but we saw last game that didn't phase the blue player in the slightest. Was very comfortable with the low hand size and made sure kept the right pieces in hand and essentially drew into what he wanted to counter with.
Mm-hmm.
Doing a little bit of math.
Gonna swing with leader first. And we see it counter out. And now follow that up with a Pacifista for 6,000. This one's a bit more difficult to counter out. Interesting that they didn't block with the queen, I suppose. You know, you null that first attack. You could force the Pacifista to swing into that queen and then use that one counter to then block the attack, to get out of the attack.
I think we end up in the same place we would have been if did do it a different way. But it's one of those things, because you swung with the leader first, by blocking that, then you're opening up the queen to be easily removed and it can't block an attack.
Yeah, but you do save that one counter from hand. But I guess depending on whether you want to power up that Pacifista or not, it does change the line of play, of course. But yeah, interesting to keep the leader at 5k when you've got that blocker available.
We're going to see the second Pacifista coming out now.
Yeah, and a bit more of an offensive kind of game strategy this time round.
Unfortunately, we haven't been able to see any red decks on stream as of yet. Hopefully something made a top cut, but it's looking like it's a pretty dominant purple, blue and green meta at the moment.
Yeah. Very clean plays from the player on the left as well. He's smooth with the way he does his plays so that it's clear to everyone. I'm cutting my deck, you know, I've got this many cards in hand, this many Don available. Great to see.
And up to round 5 now. So we're expecting 7 to 8 rounds in this event. It will all depend on, I believe, are they playing to one undefeated? Is that what they've decided?
Yeah, that's right. So once there's one undefeated, then the event will end. There's no top cut. And we will call it a day from there. But still a couple of rounds to show and give you some more One Piece content. 6k Kaido swing. Do you think this guy needs Pacifista?
I think you want to remove one of them.
Yeah.
So like you would go into it.
Yeah. And we see a super counter there. So there's a bit of an insight into our opponent's hand. Perhaps doesn't have that many counters available. If you're opting to over combo on an attack here.
Now, is it 2 or 3 cards in hand? Looks like 3 cards.
I think 2 for the player on the left. Yeah. We will see him kind of pan them out. Yep, 3 cards.
3 cards in hand. Opting to not try and save it.
But you do force that attack with the queen, so no block on that following turn.
Yeah, it's something you don't normally see too often. Normally you don't see the queens swinging until they're towards the kill turn there. So really forcing the purple player to make some aggressive plays that they probably don't really want to do right now.
Yeah, the who's good. Get rid of that Sentomaru, prevent them from continuing to set up these Pacifistas. You're able to remove one and then remove the Sentomaru.
Pumping here with the extra 1,000.
Yeah, and
let's make it a 5,000 swing.
Yeah, let's swing 5.
Happy taking that. Check for the trigger and up to 4 cards in hand. Moving up to 8 Don for the Croc player. So even though they lost a little bit of board presence, but good hand size now to make some plays, and also the leader with the ability to remove cards if need be.
Yeah, exactly. And we see both decks utilize high Don powered characters. So now we're going to start seeing the plays that these decks really want to be doing. Looking to put 2 under the leader. And
They get a 7k.
Yeah.
What do you think he's going into here? Is he going into lead? Is he trying to remove that queen?
Potentially even the Sasaki, just to guarantee that removal. I feel like you 7k into the queen is a bit of an awkward number. 7k into the leader's not a bad number, but it depends whether you want to push that damage and tie your life.
Purple with 5 cards in hand. Yeah, both at 4 life. Both at about 5 cards in hand. So in terms of board presence, obviously purple's in a much better spot.
Yeah, sweaty hands on the left. He's
going to make me sweat.
He can see the finish line in sight. He knows what he needs to do. It's just about getting there now. Waiting for the decision.
Heading towards 23 minutes left in round.
Yeah, and so we are in game 2.
The longer this goes on, they are starting to slow down their play, so it's looking like this might draw out into either a 1-1 draw or a 2-1, or a 2-0.
Yeah, and we see a super counter out there, so most likely into that queen, that attack.
Something to also that we realised earlier as well, if they do go into a game 3, it will go down to game state, depending on how much time they've got to set up into that, if it gets to it.
Yeah.
So who would be in the better position if, say, it does go into a game 3? Who would be in a better position to do that aggressive swing at life?
I think blue probably is in a bit of a better position if you can set up that Centaumaru early on. Purple has a lot of cards that they can play for quite cheap, but they require a lot of Don investment to be able to push for damage. And we've seen how easy the blue player is willing to counter out their hand to protect that life. We see purple countering out here of this attack using their blast breath, minusing the 1 Don to get out of that pacifista attack.
We've got tapping 4 here.
Yeah, this is Gecko Moria coming down, so a great effect here of being able to on play add a 7 Warlords of the Sea or Thriller Bark Pirate type character, 4 or less other than itself, from trash to hand. So a great way to pick up your super counters and things like that, or some of your other important cards, just to add them back to hand after you've countered with them.
Yeah, it looked like he did grab that super counter, was it?
Yeah, I believe so. That Dracula Mihawk. It's also got 5,000 power as well, so it is an attacker that can be utilised on the following turn. Swing queen here, I believe. Really opting to use this queen offensively as opposed to defensively. And there's the Mihawk that we probably just saw get picked up to counter out. Not sure if that was into the pacifista or the leader. But another 6k attack coming in. And another super counter.
Down to 3 cards in hand now.
Yeah. Both players still at 4 life.
Plenty of Don left to use too. So, should see something being established for the next turn now. I don't think he'll be pumping too much to put in extra swings.
Yeah, not into some of these lower cost, lower power characters.
He's got 5 Don left. So, it's also going to be a bit tight to actually play anything with 5 Don in this purple deck too. So, he is opting to pump and put that pressure on.
Yeah, and does get the damage through and removes the pacifista.
Not an ideal spot for the Croc player.
Yeah, but we do see X-Drake come down, which is just a 5k skillless. And there's the pass to our opponent. So Purple taking a good kind of position here, that you've got a solid board. You've got, your opponent with very few cards in hand. You yourself don't have a lot of cards, but, we've got some big bombs in Purple. And we see a 7,000 power attack coming in. And Queen.
Removing the Queen.
Gone. 3 Don. Centamaru. Yep. And straight away into the effect. Pacifista coming back out. He's checked his drops just to probably count how many are in there. We'll only be able to play it from the deck. And yep, there it is. And all of a sudden, blue has a board again.
It doesn't take too long. That's the thing that's great about this game. Even when it feels like you've been pushed and you've lost a lot of the pressure, because you can build up Don so quickly and the way the resource management is in this game, it doesn't feel like it's always completely weighed against you, even if you do lose all that board state.
Absolutely, yeah. You do get slowed down by the summoning sickness, but again, your opponent's dealing with the same issues, so it's a great way to bounce back and get that board re-established. Gecko Moria swing in here. I assume at the battle card, yeah. And we might see a pass here. For those of you that have stuck with us since round 1, we really do appreciate it. It's great to be able to present this stream for you guys. So shout out to TAC for putting it all together, and Bandai for giving us this card game. If you want to support the channel, we've got our links in the chat as well, our YouTube and Facebook, it's all there for you guys to follow and subscribe. We obviously do appreciate it as well. We've got some more content coming out in the pipeline for a bunch of different games, so whatever your fancy is, I'm sure we'll have something that you find entertaining as we jump into Purple player's turn.
Yeah, we saw Croc player opting to use the leader ability to remove 4 Don, clear away a bit of that board presence, and very similar to what we saw last turn with obviously Purple going into the blue player there just to try and remove as much presence as possible, and it looked like it was in a really awkward spot, but then all of a sudden now we look, tables have turned and Purple's got a very low board state and Blue's established, ready for the next turn.
Yeah, and that's just the great effect that comes alongside these leaders. All of them have their own unique effects as well. It's a big cost to send those 4 Don back, but when it puts you in a winning position, or at least a commanding position, then it's definitely worth it. And we see a 2 Don investment here, swinging for 7k. And we're going to counter out here on this one. So looks like it will be the Love Mellow. So giving the leader or character card 4,000 power. And since we have 3 or less cards in hand, we get to draw a card.
See another Queen coming down now. Burning that Don. Draw 2. Let's see what he ends up pitching from hand.
Yeah.
Bit hard because it's a little bit off screen, so we'll see if we can make out the corner of the card for you.
Yeah, they're doing their best to keep their hand on screen, which is good. I'd imagine someone must have just given them a friendly heads up after the previous game, but looks like we're discarding the X-Drake skillless. Very defensive kind of game plan from the Purple player. Is it enough to hold out until they get some big bombs, or will Blue really start putting the pressure on here.
So we can see purple player has 5 cards in hand. We've now back up to 8 Don for Croc.
Yeah, and you can hardly tell that they did that -4. You know, it made such a big difference to the purple player's board, but we're back to the blue player. We've got 8 Don available. Hardly kind of set back by that neg.
I think that's when you're already at that maximum Don, like, might as well make full use of that resource. You know you're going to be drawn back in. You won't get any extra Don the following turn, so you're not going up to 12. So might as well make use out of it. And even though you're down to 8, you're still at a really healthy number.
Yeah. I expect to see possibly a tap 7 here. Or perhaps not.
We've got a leader buff and we're going in with the swing.
Yep.
That will be 6k.
Yeah, keeping these things at 6k just to really put pressure on that queen if he decides to block. We'll probably see a buff on the Gecko Moria as well if he decides to attack with it. Depending on the line of play, we could even see another -4 here and just bounce that queen back. Really limit the kind of offensive capability of our opponent on the following turn and just how much they can remove our board, being the blue player.
But having, is it 6 or 7 cards in hand now, still not in a terrible spot. So just seeing that 1k buff there, you were swinging at leader again.
Yeah, and swinging with the Centimaro. So most likely we've seen all the pacifistas at this point. They're probably all in the drop area, hand, or just not in the deck. They could be in life.
Might as well get use out of the card.
Exactly, yeah. And another X-Drake getting counted here.
So it's only a 5,000 swing, but then we're coming in with another 5. Straight into leader. Could be a comfortable block here.
Yep, and there it is. Which you're happy to block that one. It doesn't cost you any cards from hand. You'll defend it if you need to. You force your opponent to power up this Pacifista if they want to try and remove the queen. You do have a Don available, so you can easily get this queen up to 10,000 if you need to.
Looks like we've got a 4-cost play coming. 5.
Yeah, most likely the Croc SR, or not.
Okay.
Just
pumping
up this Pacifista.
Makes it 11k.
Yeah.
So really wanting to... Do you reckon he's trying to...
I think this is into
remove that queen?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's a very awkward number to try and get over.
Yeah.
But also, again, leaving that 1 Don in active mode, you know there's not really too much you can do with it.
It is interesting, isn't it?
Would it have been better to go to the 1k this, or we're getting a blocker?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, so this blue player knows what he's doing. He's utilising his energy.
And 2 cards left in hand.
Yep, and it's a pass there. I might not be able to deal a lot of damage to you this turn, but you either deal with my board now, or you're going down to 1 life, 0 life the following turn.
Pretty decent hand size. Options should be aplenty, but all depends on what he's drawn into. Obviously thinking about high pressure plays.
Yep, and taking it back to game 1 as well, we didn't see any king, we didn't see any Kaidos. As I say that, Kaido does get dropped. So
yeah,
9
there's the
Don.
9.
Yeah. No field card or stage card has been played.
Yeah, really interesting. We haven't seen the stage card come out for a few games in a row for multiple purple players.
Yeah. We'll remove the blocker, and now we'll swing Kaido probably into the Pacifista. And there it goes.
Remove the threat.
Yeah. We could swing lead into the Centimaro or potentially the Gecko Moria. Which one do you reckon?
I think realistically, you probably remove the center, because just in case they haven't seen all of them.
I agree. I think it's easy to protect the Gecko Moria with a 1 counter. as opposed to the Sentomaru, where you're almost pushing that that card to get removed. But Purple decided to go into the Gecko Moria. They want that 5 cost removed, and Blue's able to counter out. And now they have 2 character cards that they can swing with, as opposed to just the 1.
Yeah, that not being able to attack on play unless the card has rush, definitely really interesting way of balancing the game. So you need to establish your board early to make sure that on the next stage, next turn, you can actually do that big attack, multiple cards. There's not really, I don't think you're going to see, at least for a while, any sort of one-turn kill decks in the One Piece card game, just with the way that they built the system.
Yeah. Utilizing that summoning sickness, it definitely does mitigate that threat, which is something that we see in Dragon Ball, how quickly decks can be aggressive as soon as things get played, and as we see more free play probably come into this game, more likely with trigger effects on our opponent's turn to play cards and then attack with them the following turn. Initially thought to pump up Gecko Moria. We don't have any bounce effects to remove that 9-drop Kaido. So if we want to remove it, we're going to have to swing into it directly.
The leader only removes up to a 5 cost. I'm really interested with this One Piece card game. Obviously, we've got multicolor leaders coming a lot sooner than I anticipated they would with this game. So it's taken other card games multiple sets before they go into multicolor leaders. But the limit with One Piece is you have to build within your character's color. So it's nice to see they're expanding into it early, but I'm interested to see what it's going to do to the meta.
Yeah, and there's obviously that drawback with the multicolor leaders all starting at 4 life as well. When you're not gaining, obviously you've got the access to 2 color pools, which is incredible, but losing that 1 life is a very big drawback. So you really need to be mindful of your deck building when you're moving into these multicolor strategies. But we have more colors coming out in the future as well. Black introduced in set 2. I believe yellow's been introduced as well, with a potential starter coming down the line, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, I did see that starter.
Yeah, 6 colors in total so far. Obviously, we've only got access to 4 at the moment, but as we start seeing more multicolor combinations, whether we start seeing tricolor and things like that, who knows where this game will take us.
I think at the moment it's limited to 6 colors. We'll see if they expand on that in the future. So if you look in the bottom left hand of any of the One Piece cards, you'll see there's a little color wheel there, and it will show you there's actually 6 slots. So yellow and black bringing the full circle.
Yeah. And looks like he's just dumped everything onto that Gecko Moria.
Really wants to put some pressure on there.
Yeah, and I would assume that we're going into the 9-drop Kaido, and definitely looks like it.
Remove the threat.
Yeah.
I can't do anything with my hand. I might as well make use of all this Don.
Exactly, that's right. We'll remove that big threat and see how this turn plays out. Purple's hand size still decent, but starting to dwindle down a little bit more.
Yeah, amazing how well the Croc player's been able to stay in with having such a low hand size. I know there's been times it's built up again, but most of the time operating with a fairly low hand size and still being fairly comfortable throughout the game.
Yeah, absolutely. They're experienced blue player for sure. Yeah, so here we go. We swing into the Sentomaru here. I think this should have been done the previous turn, just to remove that card from the field. But it is gone. We see the Don restand. No Don's been used this turn. Six energy, or 6 Don. We've got a King available, a Queen available, a lot of different plays, Barracuda Bomber potentially. You could power up the Who's Who, a couple of different lines that you could take it, but looks like we're going to play out a Jack. just to discard a card and get that extra Don. Looks like discarded a Jack as well. Still haven't seen a stage card. Maybe they're just caught in his hand. Doesn't feel the need to play them at this point. But you would assume that if you are discarding a card, you discard the stage there. So probably a bit of evidence that he doesn't have it in hand.
I think that's something we'll see in the future of this card game. You'll see bigger draw engines, because at the moment, very early days, the skills on these cards we're only going to build. We're going to get power creep in the future, and you don't really see a lot of your deck at the moment. Here comes the stage card.
Yeah, okay.
Getting that ramp.
Better late than never. I'm predicting the future here. I predicted the Kaido, predict the stage card. If only I'd played. You know, you've seen to the future, you can win everything.
If you draw into the right cards.
Exactly. 3 cards in hand for purple. So we've definitely seen that dwindle down very quickly there. You know, we just saw a -3 from hand with the Jack, the discard, and then the stage.
And Croc player back up to 10 Don. So you'll think, is it worth utilising that leader skill at some point? Because you're going to go back up to 8. I think you'll still be pretty comfortable there next turn.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're comfortable to bounce back some of these cards here. You can bounce back the Who's Who. I guess you're not really in any kind of threat of playing 3 or less, depending on whether you want to start playing blockers if you have them available. But Who's Who can't KO your Gecko Moria. It doesn't have any counter. But perhaps bouncing back the Jack is still the better option and just giving them the 1000 counter.
Pumping leader to 6k here.
Yeah.
Choosing to decide if the counter is happening or not.
Yeah, we do have that 1 Don available, so Blast Breath is online.
Coming down to just hit 3 minutes left in round, so we're at the pinch point here. There is an extra 5 minutes and 3 turns in overtime, but definitely these guys are going to want to make some moves pretty quickly.
Yeah. And there's the Blast Breath. We'll see a -1. Yep, and back into the Don deck. 2 cards in hand. Only 1 battle card that can, or 1 character card that can attack. And we're going to swing for 6,000. You're either going to discard your entire hand to get out of this attack, or you're going to take the damage if you don't have any super counters. 7 Don, or just another 4. We'll play another Gecko Moria. We could pick up a blocker here. We could pick up another Mihawk. Yep, which we will.
Yep. Get that super counter into hand. That recycle skill is so handy. And then play him out.
Yeah, okay, we're going to play him out.
You don't need a super counter if you're going for game.
Yeah, I guess we're looking to close this out next turn. So Mihawk has an interesting effect as well. So it's a Don 1. When attacking, you draw 2 cards and then trash 2 cards.
Nice. So good cycle there.
Yeah, and it's great that you're able to draw the 2 cards first and then decide which ones you want to trash. But pretty telling that this blue player feels you're not going to kill me this turn. So you're in a bit of danger when it comes back to my turn.
It's actually exciting to see how this game is going to finish up. So I think it's quite tight. We've got 1 minute and 20 seconds left in the round. Obviously, a little bit of presence on the purple player board, but I don't know if it's enough to get through this blue.
Yeah. Didn't opt for the bounce, so was happy to leave all of those Don available for the following turn.
3 cards in hand. And confident enough to play that super counter.
Yeah, and you can tell by body language as well. The blue player does look a bit more confident than what they did perhaps towards the start to the mid of this game. They're pretty confident with their board, the life total, the cards in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. We did see a little bit of a dip in body language, but now the sweaty palms are still there, but
yeah.
I think the confidence has grown a little bit. Definitely looking down this board state and going, oh, I'm confident that I'm going to make it to the end of this.
Yeah. And blue has a 1-0 lead here. Happy to lose that Gecko Moria there.
Timer just hitting 0 And we're going to go into overtime now.
Okay, there we go. Purple making his plays, swinging 5k into the leader. Will take that damage. Reading that card, potentially a trigger here. Just deciding whether we want to resolve it. So, again, a bit more telling. Looks like we're going to resolve it. That's Sable right there. So we're going to return a 7 or less character to our opponent's hand. A great effect to hit off that trigger. Look like we're playing 2 blockers out.
Yeah, I think this is really defensive play. Probably needed to happen. But obviously keep in mind with blue, there's a lot you can do in terms of removal. So his leader has built-in removal, can remove up to a 5 cost, can easily remove one of those blockers.
Yeah.
Still got 2 character cards on the field, plus a leader swing, and only 1 life, and then need 1 direct damage, with purple only having 3 cards left in hand.
Yeah, and if we see a Martial Teach come down, it's a 4 cost character card that it bounces a 3 or less back to hand, and then you can utilize that 4 energy that you just tapped to bounce the other one back to hand, as opposed to, you know, spending all 10 Don. The options are available there, but we're going to go for the Mihawk attack first. Draw 2, discard 2. Discarding the 2 SRs there, the 2 Croc.
Don't need shiny cards.
We'll have a pretty drop area, and there's the block.
You'll think opting to remove the other one soon will probably be the best play. You want to make sure these other swings are going through.
Yep.
Or you're going to be setting up for next turn.
Yeah, well, that's the other option as well. You can force the block, swing into the battle card, stretch this game out a little bit longer.
Even in overtime, still sitting at 3 life versus 1. Obviously in a really comfortable spot. If you got the blockers, you can play a ton of blockers and be really safe. Tapping 4 Don here. No? Thinking about it?
Just a bit unsure on what they want to do right now. But looks like it's going to be...
Pumping the leader by 1k, 6k swing. Coming into 2.5 minutes into overtime, so not long left in this one.
Yeah, and there's the block. Do we see a 7 cost come down? You know, there's so many plays and so many cards that we haven't seen from the blue player. We're just going to swing 5k Gecko Moria, probably into the jack. Yep.
Opting to counter out of that one.
Perhaps it was into lead. Yeah, it must have been into lead to only cost 1 counter. 4 Gecko Moria. Let's get a blocker back. Let's get a super counter back. Whatever we need. What do you think it is?
You have to go super counter. I don't think you really need the blocker at this point.
Interesting also. So you can also pick up the event cards that you discard as well.
Yeah, because they do have character traits down the bottom.
Yep, but picking up the super counter. Oh, sorry, no, you can't. They need to be character cards, so you can't pick up event cards. But they do have